Photography as meditation. The doorway to what's considered advanced Buddhist meditation, things like Mahamudra meditation or Dzogchen, involve a combination of what are called in Sanskrit shamatha and vipassana, which in English are termed tranquility meditation, shamatha, and insight meditation, vipassana. And the two are mixed together, just so, much like a precise recipe. Tranquility meditation, learning to sit calmly, quietly, allow the mind to rest, provides the required concentration and mindfulness. And the insight meditation, a more advanced form of meditation, gives us the leap beyond simple conceptuality, beyond just intellectualization. So how can something like photography provide this? Photography as meditation is process-oriented. Much like the Zen discipline of minding every movement, every moment, being aware of the very process of life, in this approach, the process of taking photos is more important and certainly affects the resulting photos. In other words, we don't go out with our camera to take photos, but rather to meditate using photography. So we might ask, why bother when we can just sit on a cushion at home and do all this? Now, the answer to that question is simply that not everyone is successful at meditating on a pillow. Some of us are more comfortable meditating in the stream of life itself. For these folks, and I'm one, the whole formality of the cushion takes away from what has to be for them, or should be for all of us, a more spontaneous, less self-conscious approach to meditation. Some folks, and again, as I mentioned, I count myself as one of these, find it easier to meditate on the go, so to speak, off the cushion, and in the midst of the daily stream of life, rather than sitting in a corner on a cushion for some 10 minutes or half an hour or an hour a day. If I make too formal a point of things, I can get derailed from my natural sense of monitoring the pulse of my life. My ordinary day can be, if I pay attention, like the beads on a rosary or beads on a mala string running through my fingers. Simple haptics. It feels better for me than sitting on the cushion. So that is sense enough to get a feel of things, in my case, for me. I seem to be more at home in what we could call the slipstream of life. Too much spiritual formality only makes me more arrogant, and so I tend to just stall out and not get much done in terms of Dharma practice. Therefore, as I mentioned, photography, for me, in my case, has been the best approach, not by concentrating on the photos that might result, but by going out into nature. I'm a nature photographer, and I focus on and then embedding myself into the process of photographing as the main event. The process of it, just as the Zen monk carefully picks up a teacup, takes a sip. So every step of the photographic process is kind of my cup of tea. This, coupled with the beauty of nature itself, the nature that I'm photographing, has been the perfect combination. I somewhat demanding technique and the fresh inspiration of Mother Nature. So together that's been a catalyst. Now, in all of this, I'm looking through a very fine camera lens at something of great natural beauty. I see what I'm photographing out there in front of me, the subject, but my mind is actually resting in the process of seeing itself, the process of seeing. In other words, I'm seeing the process of seeing rather than just what is to be seen out there in nature, what I'm photographing, if that makes any sense to you. And I'm not really seeing anything at all, but rather I'm allowing the mind to come to rest in the process itself, to the exclusion of any part of me that is watching. As the great Buddhist Mahasiddhas say, and I quote, "In the midst of experience, realization can arise," end quote. But in this approach to photography, we actually have to go there. We have to go into the experience fully, the process, and to the exclusion of our tendency to watch everything as from the outside. It's like the bobsled rider who pushes the bobsled, really runs really fast, then he jumps on and rides. We have to leave off with our watching and allow ourselves the sheer experience of just being present, being there in the moment. We have to ourselves get on the roller coaster of pure experience and just take the ride. It's like the rider who has nothing to write about unless he gives into living. So we each have to give up just watching our life, being so self-conscious, and allow ourselves to be kind of swept away in the current, at least enough to have something to write about. In the photographic process, we have to enjoy the process of photographing in itself, rather than focus on the expectations of the resulting photos. If we can do that, the photos will take care of themselves. They will improve from the love, the care, and attention of the process itself. So if we take care of the process, the results will take care of themselves. So the logic here is pretty simple. If all we focus on are the finished photos and fall into viewing the process of taking them as something we have to somehow get through, put up with, a necessary irritation or whatever, then that attitude somehow is transferred by association to the finished photo, and it too shows up in the photo. And the reverse is also true. If we are totally 100% present and taking our time in each step of the process, that too will result in a photo that reflects the process. This is not rocket science. In summary, I'm not saying don't sit on the cushion. Don't meditate on the cushion. I certainly did that, and I did it for many, many years, decades. But in my case, the whole idea of approaching the cushion was like putting on robes. And I became too self-conscious as to what I was doing. Like I was going to meditate, etc. Of course, it was all my fault. But nevertheless, that was the case of it. So eventually I found that just doing something that I love to do, like nature photography, although it could be anything, it could be tying flies, playing chess, washing the dishes, but for me it was nature photography. By doing this repeatedly was the magic charm that allowed my ego to kind of look the other way while my awareness slipped through and got the job done. And it could have been anything, as I mentioned, that I really love to do, but in my case it was photography that did the trick. So take what I'm saying here with a grain of salt, but know that there is an alternative that is available to you if you run into problems learning to just meditate on the cushion. You may not use photography as I do, but rather something that you have already mastered and love to do. I know this alternate method works because I did it.